Will Terence Crawford become undisputed without Errol Spence Jr.? What's good, everybody? It's your boy Cardinal Red Sports. Let's talk about it. First things first, I wanted to talk about this Kell Brooks situation real fast, man. I just watched the video, and man, it kind of broke my heart to see Kell Brooks do that ish, man. That's low, man. You know, that's a low point in a person's life. You know, I'm not gonna judge Kell Brooks. I don't know what that man's going through, what type of pain he might be in mentally, physically, but man, to see somebody you look up to and you know you aspire to try to be like, you know, you thought these people were, you know, good people. It just goes to show you, man, you don't worship celebrity. You know, you can admire these people, but don't be looking up to these people, man, because you never know what these people are doing in the background. I hope Kell Brooks gets some help, man, because that's truly sad. And it makes you wonder, like, man, was that something that was affecting his career the whole time? Is that real? Was he really injured, or was it that he just had a problem that was never brought to the light? And those are the reasons why he was losing a couple of those fights. But sad stuff, man, when you think about it. Sad stuff. So, will Terence Crawford become undisputed without Errol Spence Jr.? I think that's a good question, man, because by now everybody knows Errol is moving up to 154 to fight Keith Thurman, and it's kind of looking like he's planning to remain there. You know, by the conversations that people are having, the articles that people are putting out there, I would say there's more of a 75-25% chance that Errol Spence isn't coming back to 147. And it's not looking like Terence Crawford is actually trying to pursue him, which I think could be some type of strategy on his accord. You know, I think at first, perhaps when Terence Crawford was on Top Rank, he was pursuing that fight because he really, really needed it. And, you know, and the further and further along we've gotten with this fight not happening and Terence Crawford leaving Top Rank, becoming independent, perhaps his career path has changed a little bit and his mindset has changed a little bit. He sees he can make, you know, good money, not even selling pay-per-views. So there's no reason for him to continuously chase Errol Spence at this point. He doesn't have to. And actually, it might be a better strategy to just wait Errol out. I think Errol Spence made a mistake by admitting he was having trouble making the weight. He should have just kept that behind closed doors, you know, kept that between him and his team, and just allowed himself enough time in between fights to where he can control his weight a little bit better. But I think because he did put that information out there, it might have sparked something in Terence Crawford. A light bulb might have went off like, hey, if I could just wait this guy out, I can still become undisputed and never have to fight him. Plus, you know, in my mind, I'm thinking that Terence Crawford doesn't believe he can beat him anyway. And I think most people, in the majority of people's minds, if they were to face off at 147, they don't see Terence Crawford winning that fight. Now, I've said in my past few videos that weight could be a problem at 147 for Errol Spence because, once again, he's having trouble dropping the weight. And, you know, being weight drained is a real thing. So if Terence Crawford wanted to use a little bit of strategy, I mean, he could just wait Errol Spence out. You know, just wait him out. If he's not going to return, he only has one option. That's to drop all those titles, and then Terence Crawford can eventually become the beneficiary of that. Now, I think that there's an even tougher road to hoe if he decides to wait Errol Spence out because of Boots and Virgil and, you know, all these other young guys. You got to go through all the young guys. But it's crazy because if Terence Crawford does stick around and fight all these young fighters, what does that say about Crawford at that point? Is he a better fighter than Errol Spence because Errol Spence didn't want to go through the young guys, because Errol Spence didn't want to push himself to make the weight anymore? You know, does that put Terence Crawford a pedestal above Errol Spence because he might actually take some of these young guys down. I mean, I don't see him beating Boots. I think Virgil's going to give him a lot of problems, but there's a real possibility he could become undisputed without even having to go through Errol Spence, which would be crazy if that's the way it plays out. And I've said in the past that if I was Errol Spence, I would just leave the 154 division and talk alone and just go straight after Terence Crawford. But it's looking like Errol Spence is not wanting to go that route. So in my mind, at this point, there's other stuff going on with Spence in the background. It's not just the weight. You know, I don't think it's just the weight. I think there might be some other problems. But whatever those problems are, as a boxing fan, analyst, I'll probably never know until it doesn't matter anymore. And we'll probably never know until it doesn't matter anymore. If Errol Spence does immediately drop those titles after his fight with Keith Thurman, it's going to be a frenzy, man. It's going to be a free for all. You know, Terence Crawford's got a golden opportunity with Golden Boy. How ironic is that? You know, I've said in the past when he first left Top Rank, he should go get with Oscar because Oscar's got Virgil Ortiz and a couple other fights over there at 147 that could be made. Yeah, PBC has the majority of 147 talent, but they don't have it all, and they don't have all the top talent. So there was always options for Terence Crawford. You know, perhaps he was just trying to feel his way out. You know, when it comes to the BLK Prime situation, he got a good payday, and now it's time to move on. But if he does pull this off and does it with Oscar, and Oscar ends up with all those titles, man, what's going to happen to 147? I think it's going to end up becoming hard for guys like Boots and, you know, Stanionis and these other guys. Stanionis, you know, it's going to behoove him to beat Virgil, man. He's got a... I didn't realize that they had rescheduled the fight. I thought his injury, you know, they were making it seem like the last time I read an article that his injury was bad enough to where they had to cancel that fight. But apparently they've rescheduled it to April the 29th. So that fight is still a go. We just going to have to see, man. We just going to have to see. So if Terence Crawford signs to Golden Boy, he's got a fight with Virgil. If Virgil beats Stanionis, he's the WBA. He gets that WBA shot. And if Errol Spence does drop those titles, then I think Virgil will immediately become elevated. I think Boots will immediately become elevated. And then the WBC title, I think Terence Crawford is already ranked, I think, number 2 or 3 in that. So he would be elevated once again. He would also be elevated and probably end up fighting for that title. So you would have the WBA going to Virgil. You'd have the IBF going to Boots. You have the WBC more than likely going to Terence Bud Crawford. And then you would probably end up seeing Crawford try to take down the other 2 guys. Will it happen? It's possible. If he pulls it off, then as an analyst and a fan, I would have to admit that Terence Crawford's, you know, he surpassed Errol Spence Jr. if he pulls it off. I would have to say that. And he did it as an older fighter. You know, that would be pretty impressive. You know, I'm not a Crawford fan, but there's no way in the world that I would deny if he was able to pull that off, that he is one of the greatest welterweights of this time. And he did something that Errol Spence, for some reason, decided not to continue to pursue and accomplish. So you would have to put Terence Crawford at that point above Errol Spence Jr. in the boxing history books at the welterweight division. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that down in the comment section below. Hit that like button for me. Share. Subscribe. Holler at me on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. More than likely to get a response on the tube, so holler at me over there. If you want to collab, hit my Gmail, flockofcards@gmail.com. And we are 9 in.
Look, 1 blunt, 2 blunts, 3 blunts, 4 blunts. Now I'm high in a bitch. Nigga, 1 bird, 1/5, I'm nerd. Yo, chick, now man, your bitch, and I'ma submit. She looking real thick in that fit. Soon as you leave, I walk up, gripping her hips, have her flipping the script, convince her to strip. You at home shooting free throws, flicking your wrist, but hold up, don't let me get ahead of myself. If you really wanna better your health, getting out of my area helps. What these young niggas carry, you melt your whole clique. She swallowed the whole dick. Oh shit. Now let me slow down, cause I'm off the head bitch roll now. They didn't know, I bet they know now. I rep the hometown, Lewis Keys, nigga, let's go. Let's go, my West End niggas, let's go. My East End niggas, let's go. Louisville, let's go, nigga, let's go. Let's go, nigga, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, yo, it's sorta like NASCAR. Had these niggas take wheels off of fast cars, we not right. About to shine like dandruff and neon lights. Know you feel the shit that we on, right? I got your bitch and she's on pipe, taking pictures of herself. And if you're really slanging, you're snitching on yourself, jerk. So look at it that way. While I'm looking at your rat from the back way, then I'm looking for a black in the ashtray.